One of the biggest questions that I get fairly frequently when I do YouTube Lives, in comments, I just see it all the time, is how do I take my blog content and actually turn that into a real income? A lot of people are putting a lot of work into writing the blog posts and they're just not seeing the results. So today I'm gonna walk you through a specific example. We're gonna go through a website that has been volunteered to be looked at, and I'm gonna show you exactly how I would take this website from where it is today, mostly just content, and turn it into a real full-time income. You may have noticed by now I like to make kind of hefty promises at the beginning of my videos, but I also like to follow through on those promises. So today, let's do it. The site that we're looking at today, the current state of it is it has 208 blog posts. That's quite a bit of content. It's also only about 6 months old. At 6 months, we don't normally expect a site to be doing super well yet. A lot of the content hasn't even really had a chance to be fully tested by Google and actually achieve the level of traffic that it's likely to get to. But it's not very well optimized for monetization today. And I want to show you how we're going to be able to take that traffic and not only grow it faster, but actually grow it to a much higher level than I think is going to happen if we just leave the content that's on it today. All right, so here it is. The site is stampsound.com. This is a site all about music, music recording, home recording, really all sorts of things about music and sound. First of all, the pick of the domain name was really, really good, because what it does is it leaves the door wide open for this creator to be able to either pivot into a different area if maybe some categories of content just aren't working for him, but it also gives him room to expand and turn this into potentially a very large website over the course of time. Already a good move there. A few stats for this website. Even though we're only at about the 6-month mark, this site's already getting 32,000 page views per month. Again, I think it's because of two things. One, the sheer amount of content that's on the site, but two, there's at least a fair amount of content where the search analysis was done very well. Something that Paul, the owner of this website, shared with me really early on is he realized that focusing on the ultra low competition topics, while that works to rank well, doesn't end up really driving very much traffic. And if you're totally a beginner, focusing on low competition is great because we want to win at least some, because that's going to help improve the authoritativeness of the overall site. But he realized that he had a tendency to target maybe a little bit too niche, a little bit too specific of topics, and he realized he needed to go for the ones that were just maybe a little more competitive, but also a little more likely to drive more traffic to the site. So that's where his focus has been. Now here's an aside, this is like a separate tip, like a bonus tip, I suppose, for this video. Just because something is low competition doesn't mean the search volume is low. And also, there are many times where we can write a more medium-sized article that targets multiple very specific search phrases that can allow us to rank #1 for a lot of different phrases. So focusing on very low competition topics can still be a great way to go, especially if we can take the time to sort of optimize that article so it can rank for a lot, so that we're basically not writing a whole ton of articles that each bring like 30 people a month to the website. Anyway, back to the main video. So what Paul did is he started focusing on those little bit bigger topics. And now here we are 6 months in. He already has 3 articles on the website getting him over 1,000 page views per month a piece. That's not too bad. And he has another 17 that are driving at least 500 page views per month on the website. 20 of his articles are already over 500 page views total. Now, that's pretty cool, again, considering that none of them have hit the 8-month mark, which is still about the average of what we see on new sites that are just kind of left out there to achieve sort of the level of traffic where they'll start to plateau. He has another 31 articles that are getting over 300 page views per month. Basically, a quarter of his content is already serving him very well. So where do we go from here? Well, now it is time to start focusing on optimizing the site for monetization. And we're gonna do that in 3 actually pretty simple steps. Step #1, I'm gonna take the search analysis that was done. So you have a list basically of articles. Hopefully you've also listed out what category they are. And I'm gonna group those together. And then within each of those categories, I'm gonna look kind of for subgroups. Articles that are just very highly related to each other. Let me give you an example of that. He has a whole category here on home recording. But within home recording, he has over 30 articles. And so what if we had kind of subgroups that were, you know, the articles that are kind of little tutorials that show you specifically how to do certain things. There's gonna be another kind of subcategory on gear and equipment. Maybe another one on software that you use, and even another one on home recording setups, and just kind of how to put it all together. And what we're gonna do is, find groups of 3 to 5 articles that are just highly related to one another. Now, we're not doing anything in WordPress with categorizing at this point, or subcategorizing. He's got these built into categories, that's totally fine. But I'm not necessarily gonna go in and have like 5 subcategories under home recording. I'm just gonna make note of it here on a spreadsheet, or if you're not even a techie person, write it out on a piece of paper and just group them together. Okay, so now on to step 2. Now I'm gonna go back to my analytics and I'm gonna look at the traffic that I have per article. And for each of those 20 articles on his site that have at least 500 page views per month, I'm gonna maybe put a little bit of a star next to them. And what I'm gonna do is in each one of those groups that has at least one of those articles getting 500 page views per month, I'm gonna implement the next strategy. Now, before I go on and explain the strategy, let me tell you the 500 page view per month number comes from his analytics. These are essentially kind of the top performing articles on his website. It's like the top 10% is what we're looking at here. If you have a website that maybe doesn't have 30,000 page views yet, maybe it has 10,000 page views, but you're still kind of ready to move into this phase. You've got a fair amount of content and it's just not moving the way you want, or it's not well optimized for monetization, and you want to move into this, it might be just 200 page views per month. Wherever you set that cutoff to where it's maybe a small percentage of the articles on your website, but it's the top performing ones. Okay, back to the rest of step 2. So what we're gonna do next is in each one of those little subgroups, we're gonna identify one search query that's just a much bigger search. What's kind of the big thing that people are likely to be searching for within that genre, that topic, that cluster of content? Now, this main search query is likely to be a much bigger topic, something that's gonna require more in-depth content, a longer blog post maybe, or a blog post that just dives into more detail, maybe has some original research, maybe has some original product research, product comparisons, whatever it may be. Oftentimes these big searches will have a little bit more buyer intent. Whether or not it's a product specific post, it's likely to involve some sort of products or services. And because of that, it's going to be a post that we're going to be able to monetize much better than we would be able to monetize much of our smaller, more informational posts. We're going to write that blog post and we're going to create the best resource we possibly can. And then we're going to monetize it. We're going to put in affiliate links, highly related affiliate links, of course. We're going to really sell those links. When we have ads, these are going to be articles that perform very well with those ads. So let me give you an example from stampsound.com. We've got home recording and we talked about kind of the setup at home. So what if there was an article that was just the complete home recording setup, step-by-step guide? An article like that. I mean, there's probably a dozen of those articles already on the web, maybe more. But we create the best, absolutely best resource we can. Maybe we create one that's the complete setup for home recording for every budget. And we create 2 or 3 or maybe 4 different sort of groups of equipment that we put together, where there's kind of the top tier for home recording, not necessarily a pro setup, and then there's other tiers. There's like the beginner tier that just shows you how to inexpensively start home recording. And you just put all that together in one awesome resource. Now you might be looking at me saying, yeah, but that's so competitive, I will never rank for that. Well, that's where we're gonna get to in step 3. Just for the sake of adding a little bit more benefit, let me give you one more example from this exact website of what we could do. Audio recording at home, a step-by-step guide. That feels like so big. It's a huge, huge topic with tremendous competition. How are we ever gonna win that? At this point on the website, I don't want you to be selling yourself short. I want you to be looking for those kind of big, hairy topics that when you're starting a website, you would never even conceive of trying to win those. All right, so now in step 3, this is where it starts to work for us. We're gonna take every other blog post within that small group. It might only be 3, 5, it might be up to 10 blog posts that are all kind of in that subgroup, right? So maybe, there's 10 articles on this website about gear related to home recording. And maybe there's another 5 articles related to kind of home recording setups and tutorials. And so each one of those other articles is gonna have a very strongly sold link pointing to the big, hairy, hard article, the new one that we just added to the website. When I say sell the link, what I mean is we need to do a good job within those blog posts of giving a good reason to go over to that guide. For example, in this article, how small can a vocal booth be? Well, Vocal Booth is a piece of gear for home recording. In this article, there's a lot of content about vocal booths. You learn the basics of what vocal booths are and how they work. You learn how small they can be. You learn the disadvantages of a very small one. And here, how much does a vocal booth cost? We could add just one more sentence that says something along the lines of, home recording requires a whole series of equipment, and it can be difficult to do the research to figure out exactly what to buy depending upon your budget. I've created a complete guide to exactly which equipment you should get depending on what your budget is. Here it is. Something like that is going to be sufficient to get people to potentially want to go click on that other article. Not everybody researching vocal booths is looking for a complete home setup, but some of them are. And that will be the case on every other gear-related article in the home audio recording section of this website. So we're linking from every one of those articles to that one main article. Also, anytime it makes sense contextually within the post, we should be linking between those other articles within the same subcategory. And sometimes those big, meaty posts that we just created, some of those will make sense, especially within a category, to link between as well. What this linking is going to do for you is a couple of things. One, it's going to get good early traffic from the content that you already have over to this new meaty piece of content. It's also going to get the search engines to more quickly index that content and test it out in the rankings as they see people clicking to that, especially if you're using Google Analytics, they're literally tracking like every click through your website. That early traffic and that early indexing is also going to give much quicker authoritativeness to those meaty blog posts and therefore to your site in general for that specific topic. What that means is you'll be ranking for this big meaty content on very competitive topics much more quickly than you would on your own. You might not win with every one of those, but as you do that across all these different subcategories on your site, you're going to see the overall level of traffic rise. Traffic. You're going to see the overall level of traffic rise on your website. The other thing this is going to do for you is now you're driving as much traffic as possible and potentially getting much more traffic from the search engines to those big meaty blog posts. And those blog posts are much more optimized for monetization. They're great blog posts for selling affiliate links, and they're also great blog posts for earning more with ad traffic. If you ever want to have an info product, they're also kind of the ideal type of blog post to send people from over to a sales page for an info product. It's really kind of a golden like trifecta of monetization on these types of really valuable meaty blog posts. They're just hard to win when you write them in isolation. That's why we use the power of the rest of your content to push people there. You build that authoritativeness, which is a huge component of EAT, one of Google's big metrics for ranking content. Now, as some of this content starts to perform better, it's probably also going to help lift the rest of the site to some extent and get other content to rank faster as you establish more authority in the broader niche. And as you get more pieces of content that have, that number, whether it's 500 page views per month or 200 page views per month, you're going to get additional subcategories in which to do this. And as you do that, you're going to gain that topical authority in all of these different kind of subcategories, these little topics, these little clusters all across your website. So if this were my site and a site that I were trying to build up to generate a full-time income from where it is today, I don't think I would write another normal, ordinary blog post, probably for a very long time, until I'm ready to expand into other topics, or if I just need to build out to create some more of these subcategories. Where I would dedicate all of my time in the short term is identifying those little subgroups, those little clusters of content, and writing those ultimate resources. Each one of those articles could take a week or more to write because we want to do a really good job and make it the best resource possible. And then I would put in the effort to build all of those links within the site pointing to that content. That is what's going to take this site from where it is to quickly generating a substantial income. So how's that? Did I deliver on my promise? If I did, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. We got more content like this coming out all the time. Also, if you have a video you'd like to request, there's a link in the description. You can fill out a little survey to tell me exactly what you'd like to learn more about on the Income School YouTube channel. We'll see you guys next week.